All right, welcome back to the Unnamed Movie Car Podcast. As I blow out the levels here.
Yeah, you did.
Recording
totally.
at you live from Hill Valley, California, meaning we watched Back to the Future Part 2. Part 2, specifically Part 2.
Roman numeral I.
Yeah, because there's just more cars
Yep.
in it. There's more stuff to talk about.
A lot.
The first movie is such a cult classic movie, but the second one is more fun to me, and that was always my favorite.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts? This is historically not your favorite movie.
No, it's not. And I mean, don't get me wrong.
Wait, hold on. Sorry. Directed by Robert Zemeckis, came out in 1989, starring Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, and Thomas Wilson. Sorry, go on.
That's fine.
We always do that at the top of the show.
Exactly. Let's just say spoiler alerts.
Yeah.
All over. It was the spoiler alert show.
Yeah.
This is all we are, is spoiler alerts. Okay. So, yeah, not my favorite of the three movies of the Back to the Future, but I enjoyed it. I mean, I still enjoy it. There's a few things about it that I don't enjoy. We'll talk about that. But for the most part, it really is a fun movie just like the other three. So what do you think about the movie?
This was always my favorite Back to the Future movie.
Really?
Because they went to the future.
Yes,
they actually went to the future. They actually did the thing.
Yeah, you mentioned that before.
Just watching it as a kid, seeing all the futuristic tech, seeing all of, all of the stuff, it looked cool. And, it's being a kid, what do you want to watch on camera? I mean, Back to the Future Part 1 is, I think, a stronger story.
Yes.
But this is just more of a spectacle to watch, if you will.
Yes.
Which is more fun as a kid.
You're absolutely right. It is much more of really the kind of the bubblegum futuristic, which is hilarious. I mean, the future is, well, it's first of all, it's hilarious because it's 2015.
Right, yeah, which we actually, so now we lived through this time.
It would have been great if it was 2020.
Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, jeez.
That would have been hilarious.
There's a meme out there that there's a DeLorean, and it says, "What?" Oh, no. This wasn't a meme. I went to the Roush.
It really happened, yeah.
Am I really blowing out the levels that
no,
bad?
it's your,
Okay. I went to the Roush Museum up in Michigan, and they had a DeLorean there, and on a piece of paper, it said, "Whatever you do, don't set it to 2020." On the windshield. It was a stock DeLorean, but it was just funny in the museum.
That's funny. That's hilarious. But it was on the windshield.
Yeah, it was on the windshield. There was like a laminated piece of paper. So I guess someone from the
from the museum probably put it on
someone
there?
from the museum had a sense of humor, I guess.
It was kind of legit.
Yeah.
Was it legit? I thought maybe someone scribbled it on a piece
of
paper.
No. It was like printed out like Microsoft Word.
Great. Excellent.
Yeah. But I have a couple notes here on my thoughts. Are your notes, because you actually took notes for the first time ever?
No, I've took notes before.
Every single time I'm going to say it's the first time ever. Those are his physical notes.
My
this
physical.
Is ready?
Yeah.
That's my iPhone.
He has an iPhone screen. I'm back to the... Not back.
Although I'm using an iPhone 3G, which is the first one, so
is it?
No.
Is that a flip phone you got right there?
I'm actually using my Motorola Razr
Yeah.
to do the notes. Are your notes like your personal opinions? Because mine are my personal opinions here. First off,
some of them,
those more technical notes?
These are more technical notes. I
Okay.
talk a lot about the futuristic cars, which I loved.
Okay.
Delving into those.
So let's. Yeah. I want to get out my personal notes first.
Okay.
Just my thoughts of these. I just scribbled while watching the movie.
Excellent. Good.
So the first one was, this really set me up for disaster when watching sequels, because this sequel blended so seamlessly, literally shot for shot, ends exactly where the first movie. Or starts where the first movie ends, shot for shot, which they actually refilmed some of those shots, but it's literally just faded nearly seamlessly into the second film.
So did you think all sequels were going to be
That's
like
what
that?
I thought.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, why are we doing this like B story? Why are we introducing new people? It was like, this movie made it so easy that honestly, if you just chopped it at the credit sequence and you could just someone has to have seamlessly edited all three together.
I believe, I'm not sure, I believe they have, and also someone actually did a shot-for-shot, side-by-side comparison.
I've seen that, yeah.
Of the old movie and the new movie, the second movie, and the very end of the first movie and the very start of the second movie. And it's amazing how similar the two are. It's just really cool that someone did that. But look it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I that always kind of ruined me for sequels because sequels normally are not that well done.
No,
not
by
as
a long,
in direct sequels from, it's always like time has passed or something's changed, but this is literally like it takes place the same exact day, which is fantastic.
Yes.
I'm going to skip over this second note because it's going to take a while to talk about.
Okay.
So I'll come back to it. Barcodes as license plates.
Yes.
Kind of could happen. Because with how prominent QR codes are and like, especially during COVID times at restaurants and stuff. You haven't been to restaurants since COVID, but I have. I'm an adventurous young adult.
I'm an old man.
They don't have menus at restaurants anymore. Most of them.
No?
No, you scan your phone. Because the menus would go to each table, so it's all the fingerprints. They don't have to sanitize them.
Okay.
They're either paper menus and they throw them away each time.
Yeah.
Or they say just use your phone. So every time I traveled, went out to Pennsylvania and Maryland and stuff when I was eating at Outback Steakhouse
that
alone.
Is like futuristic.
That's a true story.
Outback Steakhouse.
Yeah, I was
alone.
set up to film I was filming at the R&R racing development out in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
My hotel was next to an Outback Steakhouse just outside of Westchester, Pennsylvania. It just had a QR code.
Wow.
So you just scan it and then it pulls up the website on your phone.
Okay.
And you order from there. But anyway.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So then you say, hey, I want this and this, but basically so they don't have to give you a menu so it's not spreading germs.
So there
around
wasn't but there wasn't like a QR code for each item, right?
Oh no. It was
That's
just to scan the QR code and it brought you to like a PDF.
Okay.
But anyway, I thought it was interesting
that
the license plates were barcodes because like that could very easily happen.
It could.
Why doesn't it happen, honestly?
Well, I think for the most part, for human readability, that they would still want to have that, but maybe a barcode at the bottom or a barcode at the top.
Because there's so many. Yeah. I mean, there's like the security cameras, red light
Exactly.
cameras.
They would
It'd be way easier.
Yes, they'd be able to easily scan it. Yeah. What?
In the UK, they have speed cameras like a lot.
Yeah.
That like if you go too fast, it takes your picture.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a guy who. On the front of his car, he took off his license plate and he wrote out a whole line of code that basically said, it basically Control-Alt-Delete, dump all of your memory. And so there was certain speed cameras that were so poorly programmed that when it would go by, it would take the picture, the thing would read it, and then just dump its database.
Really?
That's a true story. That's a true story. Because I sent it to our good friend Adam, and Adam was like, "Yeah, that's real. Like that works."
That's like a cross-site SQL injection attack.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what he called it.
Really?
Yes.
That's a true thing that I know about. But that's what. I could totally see that happening. Where, boy, you gotta be.
Yeah.
You gotta.
It's really funny.
You gotta know how that whole system works. So
I mean, like the whole front of his car was like IE / whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I thought the QR codes were funny.
Oh, that's cool.
I thought the most unrealistic part of this entire movie was the fact that they parked a DeLorean for free in an alleyway in California. The fact that they got free parking.
And immediate instant
parking
in California
is the most unrealistic part of this whole film.
That is really unrealistic.
I just thought that was funny. I also noted that it was $40,000 to convert your car to a flying car.
Yes, I noticed that too. It
was $39.99.95 or whatever.
Yeah, which was pretty funny. And that was actually, believe it or not, the mayor's son, because Goldie Jr. was the new mayor. If you read the sign, and he's the third. Goldie was the third who had the shop to convert hover cars. So very interesting.
One thing I love about the Back to the Future franchise is they always do family lines. They always do tie-ins, like the Buford B. Tannen, like Western,
right?
All the way back, and the mayor from 1955. Well, now his son is which I thought was great. the Cafe 80s.
Yes.
Cafe 80s could very much be real.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because you remember, I mean, the 2010s, we were
yeah.
obsessed with the 80s, with Stranger Things, with
Yep.
Ready Player One.
Yep.
You remember,
I
we had
remember
that day.
yeah.
It was me,
yeah.
you, and my brother.
Yep.
We went to an 80s arcade, and then
Yeah.
we went to go see Ready Player One.
That's right, we did.
Yeah.
We actually
And
did.
then we
yeah, that's fun.
and then we ate at Omega, which wasn't very 80s. Well, actually, you know what? They
Well-
probably updated their menu last in 1981.
Yeah,
So
probably, yeah.
just
probably.
comfort American food at Omega.
Boy,
but
I miss that, though. I miss that arcade.
Yeah.
Because the place we went to was Galloping Ghost,
Galloping
right?
Ghosts, yeah.
And they have this cool arcade. It's all the old 80s
I think it's like
style.
$20 play as much as
Yeah,
you want.
$20. You
And
play as much
it's
as
the
you want.
original Pac-Man.
Yep.
It's all these old
Yeah.
stand-up cabinets, which
So
is great.
cool. So cool. So we did that.
Right.
And then we went to see Ready Player One, which was actually a very fun thing to do.
And that had to have been, what, 2017, 2018?
Yeah, probably.
So, like, right
It's
around
close.
that, like,
It
the
was right
80s were
before.
very big in the 2010s. And
Yeah.
they still are, I think. 80s
Yeah.
is still a very popular decade.
Well, it's so funny, yes, because the 80s have so many iconic things.
Yeah.
The music was
Yeah.
iconic and very different because the music was just hitting a new wave of synthesizers. Electronic music
Yeah.
was, and you could do a whole, you could write a book on the
Yeah.
the change. But so the music, the fashions.
Well, not only synthesizers with the music, but also rap was starting, like
Yeah.
Run DMC
Yes,
and
yes.
all of these names were starting to come up in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Beastie Boys, we were talking about
Yeah.
at dinner last
Yeah.
night. I mean,
Yeah.
they were 90s, but they
Yeah.
they got their roots in the 80s.
Yes.
And this was 89. This was almost the 90s when this
Well-
movie came out.
Right. And then you had, well, exactly, when you had the first Back to the Future was what, 85?
I believe 85, yeah.
85 or 86. Anyway, around that time, you had movies like Ghostbusters. You had movies, like all of these huge blockbuster movies.
Iconic stuff. And then the third one came out in 1990, and that's when we started seeing like Terminator 2, I
Yeah.
believe was like 91.
Yeah.
Like very iconic I guess decade for cinema. Which Back to the Future Part 2 was the highest grossing movie of 1989.
Was it really?
Yeah,
Okay,
which
yeah.
I feel like 1989 was kind of an off year for films. I don't really remember much else that was released that year, but
Yeah, I think actually I want to say that's when I took my trip to California in the
Okay.
RX-7. So
Yeah.
that was a big year for me. So yeah.
but
yeah.
So last one I had, last note that I wrote down,
Okay.
which this is a big spoiler for the very end of the movie.
Okay.
But the idea of Western Union delivering a letter not only on time, but after that much time, after 70 years,
Yeah.
is so insane to me.
Yeah.
Any sort of postal service being on time like that, besides Amazon. I mean,
Well, yeah, if it were nowadays, it would
Yeah.
be Amazon. But the thing about that is, I actually think that probably Western Union, Post Office, things like that, were actually much more precise and everything. Life traveled a lot slower
Back in the day.
Back in
Yeah.
the day, I think they were
That's
probably
fair.
much better.
Yeah.
I remember when I was working for a video company as a producer, when we had UPS come in,
hmm
and this was back in the 80s.
Mhm.
And UPS came in, and I said, "Oh yeah, they lost one of my packages, or one of my packages was late or something." And literally, the guy jumped out of his seat and said, "Tell me everything about that." He goes, "We've never lost a package ever." And
Oh.
yeah, it was like a huge deal to this guy.
Yeah.
And he was like this corporate guy from UPS, and it was like they'd never lost a package ever. Like that was a huge, huge deal. Nowadays, it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
We lost 50
Yeah,
packages.
I
whatever.
ordered a bunch of stickers for the channel
Yeah,
back in December 8th.
Yeah.
Never received them.
yeah.
And like I put in a claim and everything, and they just
Yeah.
replied, "Tough luck, Tubby." And I was like, "All right."
Wow.
Yeah.
Was
Shout
that
out
for-
UPS.
Was that from Doc Brown?
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
We've been waiting 80 years to tell you this.
Yeah.
Um
No, you're right, though. It would be crazy that they would
Yeah.
keep a letter around that long. The other thing about it would be like, I'm sure some guy 10 years after they had the letter would be like, yeah, this is stupid. Let's just throw this away.
yeah, just throw it away. Like,
Yeah.
what's a DeLorean? What's a car? What's
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
I mean, because he went back to It was 1885, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 1885, right? So he goes back to that time, and then he writes a letter in Western Union, blah blah blah, and then it works. That is pretty crazy. The other thing is, it is pouring rain.
Why would you open it in the pouring rain?
Why?
This 70-year-old letter.
Right.
I
It
mean,
would
like,
dissolve in
yeah,
his hands.
yeah. And then I saw it, and it started getting. I'm like, why
Yeah.
are you doing this?
Yeah. I mean, it would be hilarious if it just dissolved, and he'd be like, "Dear Marty,
Yeah.
And then that would be
okay.
it.
Yeah. He probably wrote it in charcoal or whatever they had in the 1800s.
I don't know. That's probably
Slate and
some sort of-
chalk.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a good.
But yeah.
Probably had ink.
So, do you want to get into your notes, or do you want to talk
Yeah, I
about the
can-
cars?
All right. Well, let me.
Yeah, interject with your notes then.
I'll do my notes. Okay. So, one of my things, and I don't know if you have notes on this too, is the scene where Marty first arrives in the future. They
Okay.
get the parking spot in the alley for free, which is insane.
Right.
And then Marty starts walking towards the street.
I don't think I have notes on this.
Okay, he walks towards the street, and you start seeing all these quote unquote futuristic cars driving by.
Yeah.
So that totally fascinated me because
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
Excuse me. Wow, that was out of nowhere.
wow, okay,
All right, I think we're okay.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, but go on. Yeah, go on.
okay. So one of the things that you see in when he walks around the corner, and there's a whole. It's a bunch of scenes where you see all the futuristic cars. One of the cars you see in there is a super van. I don't know if you've
Interesting.
There's a super van that was actually created for several different movies. There was actually a movie called Super Van, and it had this futuristic looking van in it.
So one of my trivia facts is that most of the cars in the backgrounds were pulled from other productions.
Okay, so
which
there you
is
go.
why there's very little continuity between the
That's
vehicles.
true.
But
It
go
is
on.
True. That is
Yeah.
true. So so Super Van
Okay.
is the name of the vehicle. It was a specially built,
Okay.
movie car. It was in the movie Super Van, also in Sequest DSV, the
Wow.
movie Sequest DS, also in, of course, Back to the Future Part 2, also in Solar Crisis, also in Condor. So this van...
That van has more screen credits than some people.
Exactly, it does. It was
Is
when I
it-
read that,
Is
I
it
was
the
like,
same thing in SAG where like you have to like does the car have to honk in order to be eligible? Because you have to have a certain amount of lines
You
of
do.
dialogue, right, in
You
order to
have
be
to have-
eligible.
yes, technically, as I recall, you have to have at least one speaking line. You
Right.
have to have one.
So
line
do they
that-
have to like honk their horn or
I don't know,
something in
maybe.
order
It's-
to yeah?
I just
That's
thought it was
funny, yeah.
hilarious that it was in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different movies, and it's the same
Yeah.
exact vehicle.
That
in
gives
all of the,
the
different
Pizza Planet truck a run for its money.
It does. It does. That's true. So I thought that was really cool. By the way, I did want to give a shout out to the Internet Movie Cars database.
Oh yeah, this
This
is where
is-
I've been pulling all of my information.
Well, I really want to shout out to everyone who has, because I think people actually go and put up
I believe
things
it's
on
like
there.
a not admin based, but like
It's
user.
It's kind of like a
yeah.
Wikipedia type
Yeah,
of
yeah,
thing
yeah,
that you
essentially,
go
yeah.
in and you can upload. Well, it's great. So it's www.imcdb.org.
It's a bad name. It is a bad name.
Yeah,
it's
it
a
is.
hard to remember name,
Yeah.
but
Internet
it's a fantastic website.
Yeah. I totally agree. Internet Movie Cars Database.
Yeah.
You could just Google that or Bing that or whatever you want
Yeah.
to
Or
Shout out
I don't
to
even
Bing.
know what other people use.
do. Prodigy or what is it?
Or DuckDuckGo, DuckDuckGo,
DuckDuckGo.
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 Yeah,
That's
which
another
is
one.
yeah.
That's an up and coming one. That's
Mhm.
that's an interesting one.
Shout out.
Shout out. So, okay, so here's the thing that I thought was fun too.
Mm-hmm.
Griff's car in the future. Did you
Mhm.
know what that was?
BMW 6 Series.
You did know that.
Yes.
I'm
Well, I did research it for this. I
Okay.
do have it in my notes,
Okay.
but I knew that beforehand
okay.
because I saw one of those in real life at
Yeah?
the Menards parking lot up by us, by
No.
the taco truck.
no,
I have pictures of it somewhere on my computer. It was pristine and it was the hard top. Those are really hard to find nowadays.
I would never have picked that out, but I
Yeah.
thought it was a cool car.
I love late 70s, early 80s BMWs. I mean, I really love BMW from the 70s till
Mhm.
about this year.
Yeah.
They changed up the grills this year and
Yeah.
they're huge.
Okay.
They're really ugly now. But
no.
yeah, Go on.
So his car, that was a 1976
Mm-hmm.
BMW 633 CSI.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there's a scene where he's swinging a baseball bat at Marty when he's coming flying around the corner, and he misses Marty and he hits the taillight out of the car. You can plain as day see the badge on the back of the car. And not only that, which is funny because there was a totally they added parts to make it like kits, like body kits to it. Not only that, if you look, because I froze the frame, no license plate, no rear license plate at all. Nothing there.
Yeah.
Literally, there's 2 holes where the screws go in for that. I don't know if he had a front license plate, so illegal.
Yeah,
That's
illegal.
all I'm saying.
Illegal.
It's just totally illegal.
Is that all you have on the BMW or no?
That's all I have on the BMW. Really cool car. I thought that was fun.
So I have
like
some
that.
more on the BMW.
Ooh, good. Okay,
So it was a German market vehicle.
Oh.
So it was imported for the film. Again, another
What?
instance.
Are you serious?
Yes, another
Okay.
instance of a vehicle being imported for the film for no reason. For no reason.
That is true.
Just because we
That
didn't
is
get
true.
the coupes here. It was a coupe convertible.
Yeah, it was.
And we didn't get coupes here, I believe. Or no, maybe we
yeah.
didn't get convertibles here.
What the heck that's going on with that?
But it was so I watched a video. This car is privately owned, and it never ran, but someone modified it to run. The guy drives it around.
No.
And as of 2017 or 18, when I watched when the video was posted, it was in Connecticut. A guy just has it in his garage. The screen used 633 CSI.
Wow.
And he has all the bits to put on the wheels to make it look like the hover car, but he has to take it off to drive.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's like this spare tire on the front.
Yeah.
Because it's just, whatever.
Right.
But let me see the notes on. Oh, yeah, it was just a German market car, privately owned.
Yeah.
And it before that, it was in a museum in Branson, Missouri. So the car has actually been kind of tossed around and was one of the most affordable screen used cars to ever go up to auction. I think it went for I want to say like 20, 30 grand, like not a whole lot.
So we'll talk about that in a minute too, about another car in this movie that actually we saw and went up for sale, but we'll go ahead.
Ooh, I don't remember this now.
Okay.
Okay.
You'll remember it when we talk about it.
Go on. You go on.
No, that's really good though that I'm fascinated by the fact that particular car has stayed around.
I want to track down the new owner and berate them into letting me review it. Because it is my dream to review a screen used car. Yeah. I mean, that's the coolest thing in the world. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, that is that's true. It would be really fun to drive around in a car that was in the movie. So that is very cool. But I don't have anything more about that one in particular.
Go on.
Okay. Principal Skinner. Or I think it's Principal Skinner.
That's The Simpsons. That is 100% The Simpsons.
So I totally have the right.
I know
Tanner? Who's Tanner or no?
I don't remember now. I don't remember the principal's name, but he's like, you look like a slacker.
Yes,
you're a slacker
guy.
Yeah.
So the slacker guy. Anyway, when the drive-by happens in the future scenes, and he's got a shotgun and he's shooting down the street at the guys. The drive-by was done in a 1969 Buick Skylark Custom.
Nice. I've always wanted to drive a Skylark.
And actually, I had a 69 Impala, so around the same time. So
I assume very similar because Buick and Chevy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why when I saw that, I was like, I want to see what kind of car that was. But it's funny that it was a 69. And if that was 85, that was about the time that I was driving the 69 Impala. Yeah. So very funny that.
Which is really interesting when they go to that alternate 1985. Most of the cars, if you notice, are 70s cars.
It's true.
The smashed up car in his girlfriend's driveway is, I believe, an AMC Gremlin. I want to say.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I didn't even search that one up.
Wow, you're good.
Thank you.
Good.
But which is interesting because, the world has kind of gone to crap.
Yeah.
So car production would kind of stop, ideally. So which is a kind of.
That's how much Biff had taken over the world. Yeah.
But so go on.
No, I was gonna say that's very interesting. Also, let's talk briefly about the tow truck. In the early scenes, so in the 50s, 1950s,
yeah.
The tow truck pulls up to Biff's car, or it's there. and the tow truck is delivering the car, Biff's
Yeah.
car. That is a 1952 Chevrolet 3600. And the reason why I thought that was interesting was that in the 50s, and I noticed this for a lot of the cars that were in that movie,
Mm-hmm.
in the 50s, this was 1955, right? Very few of the cars were actually 55s, which was actually more accurate because you wouldn't necessarily have
Yeah.
all new cars around.
Right. Yeah.
You would
Which
have,
I think is an
different ages.
oversight in films sometimes.
Yes.
Even to the point where actually in Stranger Things that takes place in 1984, there's a 1986 Volkswagen.
Yeah. Well, that's
The first girl that goes missing due to the Demogorgon.
mhm.
She actually drives in 1986, but it's in 1984.
Upside down world. That's
Yeah.
all I got to say. Upside down. So,
But yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point because I also have written down here that Biff's car is a 1945 Ford Super Deluxe.
I have it as a 46 Ford Super Deluxe.
Wow. I probably typed it wrong.
Well, no, the only reason why I got that, so I got that again from the Internet Movie Cars Database.
Yeah, which I also got mine from, so I must have mistyped it.
Okay. The reason why it says the reason why I say it's a 1946
Mm-hmm.
is probably because Doc, when he's flying over the car, and Marty says, "Let's land on top of the car," and he says, "We're in a DeLorean." He's in a 1946 Ford. He would crush us like a tin
tinfoil.
Yeah, like tin.
Yeah, or he'd go through us like
Yeah.
tinfoil or something.
Right, exactly. So
Um,
that's how I know that.
Okay.
But that brings me to the car that was for sale. Up at Volo, they had Biff's car, the 1946 Ford Super Deluxe.
Oh, they did.
They
Was
did.
it
It was in
screen
the
used
corner.
or was it?
I want to say it was, I don't know.
Okay, cool. Nice. You went into it with a lot of steam and you lost it real quick. I want to say I don't know.
I want to say yes, but,
I do remember that now. I do
Yeah.
remember that.
but it did not have a white steering wheel, which the
Ooh.
one in the movie had a white steering wheel, so it could have been
Which
swapped
a
out or
Hot
something.
Wheels that has always abandoned me. I could never find.
What?
They had Biff's car
Oh, did they?
filled with manure as a Hot Wheels.
As a Hot
And I
Wheels.
never could find it.
Oh,
Although I
wow,
do
that's
have
cool.
2 DeLoreans, one in flying mode and one in regular mode. I do have 2 Back to
Oh,
the Future DeLoreans.
okay,
Hot
so-
Wheels.
Let's talk about that. You have
Oh,
a very
yeah.
special DeLorean.
Right. I do have a very special DeLorean. The manufacturer's escaping me. I want to say Jada.
Yes.
Jada
probably
Toys or
like
something.
that, yeah.
But I have a DeLorean that is signed to me from Christopher Lloyd up in my
Yes.
room.
Yes.
Which has been in my room for years and years and years.
yeah. Yeah.
I want to say it was, gosh, like 2011 that we went, maybe? Or
Probably.
maybe
there,
2010?
there was a
Was 2000, no, it couldn't have been 2005. I'm trying to think, was it an anniversary or was it just a
No,
thing?
I think they were doing a tour. So
Oh,
some of
okay,
the
yeah, yeah.
some of the stars, Christopher Lloyd, gosh, there was a couple of different people. Biff, the guy who plays Biff, was there.
Yeah, which, yeah.
Super nice guy. but
Yeah.
yeah. They were together, and
They came to a
were-
local theater.
They came to a
Yeah.
local theater and they were signing stuff. And so I brought you guys
Yeah.
with the model car, and Christopher Lloyd signed
Yeah.
your DeLorean.
Yeah.
So very, very cool thing.
Yeah, very, very cool.
Also signed our we have
the DVD was
DVD
signed by
jacket.
pretty much everyone
yeah,
that was
DVD
there,
Yeah, DVD jacket
which is
was
really,
signed.
really cool.
Which is so that was a one thing that
Yeah.
was really awesome. Of course, I mean we haven't even talked about the DeLorean itself yet.
Yeah, I have so many notes on the DeLorean. I
Okay.
was saving that for
Okay.
last.
Well, let me go to a couple other
Okay,
things,
yeah,
a
yeah.
couple more notes. So, Lorraine's car.
Okay.
So that's Marty's mom.
Okay.
Is a 1949 Packard Custom 8 Victoria.
So that's the one where the, let's be honest, rape scene happens.
Yeah, no
I
kidding.
forgot it happens in
Yeah.
this movie too.
Yes. So that's
There's
right,
a
the
lot
movies-
of weird
Yeah.
sexual tension between
Yeah.
Marty and his mom.
Yes.
I forgot about in this one too,
Yes.
where she
that's
has
true.
those chest enhancements and he's
Yes,
staring at his
that's
mom.
right. That you know what? I
It's
didn't think about-
creepy.
I didn't think about that. That is creepy. And there's nothing in the third movie, by the way. Like absolutely.
Oh yeah, well it's the
nothing.
Wild West.
Yeah, it's like it's not even. And
Yeah.
she, honestly, she has one of the worst Irish accents ever that
I
anyone
forgot
on the
about
screen
that.
has ever done. Yeah, she has an Irish accent. It's not very good.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, there's absolutely nothing. But yeah, this movie was creepy in that way too. There
Yeah.
was like two different things.
Yeah.
That were like, okay. But it is. I thought it was very cool that it was a 49. It looked like
Packard, yeah.
it looked like a convertible, isn't it?
I didn't think so. I thought it was a
Maybe,
hardtop.
Maybe it was a hardtop. I don't know.
You can't rape
Anyway.
in a convertible. Come on.
That's right.
Got to have that concealed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Couple things. Future cars.
Yes.
This is hilarious.
Yeah.
So these cars,
Mm-hmm.
1989 Ford Probe.
Yes, that's the car that I have brought up.
Yeah.
Because that was. So, do you know
There's
anything
two
about the
different
Ford
ones in
Probe?
there. No.
So really, it's
I knew a person who had one, but go
okay.
ahead. Yeah.
Basically, it's based off a Mazda MX-6. The
Is it?
MX-6 and the Ford Probe
Really?
were the same chassis,
Okay.
different
Alrighty.
bodies, pop-up headlights. The Ford Probe in this movie was a concept, stretched, bubbly version of the Ford Probe. But when I saw it, I immediately knew it was a Ford Probe.
Did you really?
Yes,
Even
100%.
With the
It has a totally
kits
different
on it?
roof, totally different windshield.
yeah.
But I knew the front end of it was a
Wow.
Ford Probe.
Wow.
So the Ford Probe was actually originally introduced in order to phase out the Mustang.
No.
Yes. So their full plan was after the
That
Fox
went well.
body. Yeah.
That went great.
Well, after the Fox body, which you had a Fox body.
yes, I did.
And actually, there's a red Fox body in this movie.
Is there?
The very first car, you see it fly in, and it comes down on the ramp, and then it drives like regular.
Oh, yeah.
That's
okay.
actually a Fox body Mustang.
Wow.
So that's like a mid '80s Mustang.
There was a couple Mustangs in this movie, but yeah, very interesting.
But yeah, so I immediately noticed the Ford Probe, and Ford was going to switch, basically phase out the Mustang and phase in
Yeah.
the Probe
Yeah.
to be their sporty two-door car.
Crazy.
Well, when they announced that, Ford fans lost their minds.
Yeah, I bet.
For a good reason. And
Yeah.
they said, how could you take away the Mustang? And the Mustang has come back to be a
Yeah.
I mean, it's stayed in business. I actually drove a Mustang GT today.
Yeah, but didn't they
2018.
also desecrate it with the minivan?
Yes and no. It's an SUV. It's an electric SUV.
Yeah. Okay.
The reason I say yes and no is because they still produce the Mustang GT500. They still
Okay.
they still make regular Mustangs, so you can still buy a big throaty V8 sports car. You can
Okay,
also
all
still
right,
buy an
okay,
EcoBoost
okay.
Mustang GT500. They just announced or just released the Mach 1 again. They re-released the Mach 1
Yeah.
for this body style, so they still make the regular Mustang.
Yep.
But yes, there's also technically the Mustang Mach E, which is a electric SUV.
Okay.
So
Wow.
which people again threw a huge fit over.
Yeah.
However, they weren't canceling the Mustang. Originally, the Probe was supposed to cancel out the Mustang.
I could not imagine them getting rid of the Mustang. I really couldn't.
I couldn't either,
just,
but
yeah.
also the Mustang kind of sucked at this point
It's
because
true. It did.
the
It
Ford
is true.
Taurus
Yeah.
SHO.
The one I
which-
had was bad. But go
Yeah,
ahead.
the Fox body wasn't. It's great now because of retroness, but at the
Yes.
time it wasn't amazing.
No, at the time it kind of looked like a Dodge Omni.
Yeah,
It really
yeah.
did.
Or
It
Plymouth
was like
Horizon, shout out. But
same difference. Yeah.
But so the Ford Taurus SHO,
yes.
the first generation,
Yes.
so it was like the sedan SHO,
Yeah.
engine built by Yamaha, like insane V8, would run circles around the current Mustang. Ford
Really?
was selling a four-door family sedan that you could get with a V8 manual that was outrunning their Mustang at the time
Wow.
in the
Yeah.
early 90s. So
Okay,
the Probe
alright.
was it was a front-wheel drive V6, the Probe.
Yeah.
Or you could get, I believe, a 4-cylinder turbo. But yeah, so it's super interesting that you brought up the Probe.
Yes.
But it's not a Probe like we know it today in the
No,
movie.
it's not.
But I recognized it in a heartbeat that it was a Probe.
And that's why I'm surprised that you recognize it immediately because it doesn't look like.
And I'm also
The Probe
surprised
used
that
to.
it has a Ford badge on it, bright and center.
Yeah. Yeah.
So either Ford was getting paid for it,
Yeah.
or Ford paid them to put that Probe in, which I wouldn't doubt if
Yeah.
they were trying to market it as the new hip thing.
Right. Because it's funny because if you actually look on Internet Movie Cars database.
Shout out.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding. You will see the stills from the movie, and it's hilarious because
Yeah.
it looks like they threw a giant like tarp over the front of the car
Right,
just to
yeah.
make it look more sleek or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's different.
It is different, and there's actually two of them. There's one with a different front, so they like did car kits on two different Probes at least.
Interesting.
At least 2 different ones. There's also a 1987 Ford Tempo.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I've always wanted all these old cars I want
yeah.
to film, man. Just these regular cars.
Yes.
But go on.
And it was such a regular car, but it is the first, as Marty's walking up through the alley, it's the first car that crosses over. And what's hilarious about it is they put all sorts of like tubes and things on it as it passed by. I was like, what the heck is that? And of course, on Internet Movie Cars database, they had the still from that. So that was very cool. 1987 Pontiac Pursuit. Have you ever heard of that car?
No, I've never heard of the Pontiac Pursuit.
So I don't know if it was some sort of like police type vehicle, but they show it way in the background. I mean, it's like it's way out. Also, 1989 Pontiac Fiero concept car was was in the background. You'll see it near the Cafe 80. But very, very funny that it was a concept car for Fiero, which is
but the Fiero had already been out in the 80s.
Yeah.
So was it a concept car for the or was it a concept? What was it a concept of? Do you know?
It just said Pontiac Fiero concept. So.
Okay, interesting.
Also, 1985 Saab EV1.
Interesting.
Yes.
Shout out to last episode.
Well, exactly. Well, Saab EV1, but not a GM.
GM. Just in namesake, it's the same, but I'm sure
that's
it's completely different.
When I saw the EV1, I'm like, oh, okay, that's really bizarre. That would have been great if they would have had actual EV1s in there. That would have been so cool.
Yeah.
Then also, which these are very interesting. These are the most, I would say, the most outlandish cars in this. It's there's actually 2 of them. 1985. I'm not going to say this right. Owesso Pulse. OWOSSO.
Owasso?
Owasso Pulse.
Okay.
Anyway, they are the ones that look like a rocket car. They look like a rocket with some wheels on it.
Okay.
There's a red one and there's
a
white
real
one.
car?
It is actually a real car.
Weird.
There are people that drive those around. They were kind of like, I don't know, kind of cool concept cars or whatever. For 1985, that was like a cool, hip, new, I think it was a 3-wheel. I'm not sure.
Wow, okay.
But interesting, I believe they have a still on the Internet Movie Cars database. Wow, they should be like paying us for this one. But they have it on there, and they show it actually sitting there at Universal Studios in Florida.
Interesting, okay.
So kind of cool that you can go on to what looks like the set. There's the movie theater, which I love the fact that Steven Spielberg, the whole throwback to Jaws.
Jaws 19.
Jaws 19.
And then he says, well, this one looks fake too.
Right. Yeah, he says, he goes, Shark still looks fake.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that it says, this time it's really, really personal.
Yeah.
Because I think in like Jaws 4 or 5, it's at
this time it's really personal.
Well, it was this time it's personal.
Oh, okay.
Now this time it's really, really personal.
That's
so
great.
I think that was a very fun
shout
out to Steven Spielberg.
Which also I think it says it was directed by Max Spielberg or something.
Yeah, there was a couple different.
Which was his son, born in 1985. Spielberg's son.
Oh. Wait a minute. How did he? No, he couldn't. It couldn't have been. He was born in 85 because how could he direct a movie
in 2015? He would have been.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No,
Spielberg's real son that was born in 85. He used his name.
He used his
for the movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was like.
No. You're good.
I was like, how did his son, who was like a year old, direct a movie?
He actually directed the entire trilogy.
There was amazing.
Goo Goo Gaga meetings, and there was a huge milk budget on this one.
Right, it was enormous. So that's kind of it for the cars for me. I do have some other notes on some things that.
Do we want to talk about the DeLorean now, or do we want to talk about the DeLorean after these notes?
Let's talk about the DeLorean now. Come back to these notes. These are just movie notes that I made of the things.
So
yeah, let's talk about DeLorean.
So let's talk about it. 1982 DeLorean DMC-12. So the DeLorean.
I was thinking Run DMC.
Yeah.
I always think of that, but yeah.
The DeLorean is actually just the manufacturer name.
Okay.
The actual name of the car model is DMC-12.
Oh, cool.
But it had a 2.85 liter single overhead cam V6 that was actually a Peugeot Renault engine, so a
Was it?
French engine.
Renault, yeah.
And it made about 130 horsepower, 153 foot-pounds of torque. So not a lot of power, honestly,
Right,
out of a V6. It was technically mid-engine. The engine was behind the driver.
Could it go 88 miles an hour?
That's the joke that people have always said of like the most unrealistic thing in Back to the Future is the fact that a DeLorean could hit 88 in a mall parking lot.
Well, that's true.
In a mall parking lot.
Yeah, in a mall parking lot. If you had a Tesla, yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
I don't even think my new Mazda would hit 88 in a mall
parking lot.
Especially, what mall parking lot are they in where there's not like giant potholes, garbage, medians,
well, that's the thing.
a little security guy in a Ford Escape.
Those cement medians. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, although I will say they did have one big barrier in the first movie, which was Somali terrorists or whatever.
Okay, there's that. Those are the Libyans.
Sorry, Libyans.
Libyans. Very big difference.
And never brought up ever again. But it's fine.
That's true. That is true. That's one thing they never continued through the whole story.
Yeah, they never brought up the Libyans ever again.
Okay, I guess.
So DeLorean actually went bankrupt in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
So they went bankrupt 3 years before the movie ever came out.
Oh, wow.
Which is very interesting.
That is interesting, yeah.
And it makes sense of why, because they went bankrupt because they didn't have any money. So I have written here, DeLorean went bankrupt in 1982 after lack of sales and DeLorean's drug trafficking scandal, of which DeLorean was later acquitted.
Yeah, there's that.
So talking about the bankruptcy, DeLorean had to sell between 10,000 and 12,000 cars in order to break even. However, they only ended up selling about 6,000 of them. So the DeLorean sold for about $25,000 back in the 80s, which is equivalent to almost $70,000 today.
Wow. Okay.
About $68,000 for a stainless steel 2-door, 2-seat French V8 or French V6
That's true.
car.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem like really good value. They were unique, and you have to also remember everyone who bought a DeLorean bought it before the movie.
Yes, that is true.
Because this was 3 years before.
That's right. That is
and
right.
only 9,000 DeLoreans were ever made.
Really?
Yes. So original DeLoreans. That's
okay,
changed
we're going to
now.
talk about that. Yeah.
I don't have any notes on it, but I can touch on it briefly.
Yes. Let's talk about
that. So that's the bankruptcy, but then the scandal. In October of 1982, John DeLorean, who used to work at Pontiac and is responsible for the video that I edited today, the Pontiac GTO.
Oh.
John DeLorean was one of the 3 leads on the GTO project and made that muscle car happen, which the GTO was the very first quote-unquote muscle car. So the GTO really kicked off the Challenger, the Charger, the Camaro.
Oh, okay.
It kicked off this whole generation of muscle cars.
Okay.
That's all thanks to John DeLorean. However, hit play. John DeLorean was videotaped in a sting operation agreeing to bankroll drug trafficking, but was acquitted on the basement. I can't.
In the basement.
But was acquitted on the basis of entrapment. His reputation was forever tarnished after this happened. He never did anything automotive ever again.
Yeah.
And he was quoted as saying, "Would you buy a used car from me? Or would you even buy a used car from me?" Meaning that he couldn't even open up one of those slimy used car dealer lots. People wouldn't even trust him to do that.
That's
It's kind of sad, honestly.
It is kind of sad.
Although he did agree to bankroll cocaine across the border.
Oh, there you go.
Which, hello, 80s. I mean, John DeLorean is like the most 80s man in the world.
Oh, yeah.
He created the DeLorean, which is one of the most, if not the most iconic 80s car.
Yes.
And then he also was running cocaine or agreed to pay to run cocaine.
So if you go to a Halloween party with an 80s theme, you should do John DeLorean. You should do
just
DeLorean.
be John DeLorean.
Just you be John DeLorean.
So that's all I have for the DeLorean, but I think that's a super interesting story if you want to dive deeper into the cocaine allegations.
Yeah,
and,
that whole thing I do remember that, and it was pretty amazing because it was on the news, and it was just this,
it was a big deal.
Well, back then there was no internet, blah, blah, blah. So all you saw was news, and he was all over the news.
Yeah.
And it was newspapers and blah, blah, blah.
So all I have left is trivia.
Okay.
If you want to get into the rest of your
Yeah,
notes.
I mean, I don't have many notes. There's not too much.
Okay, we'll do that, and then we'll
too many
do
things to talk
trivia.
about.
What do we
Wow,
have?
we're only at 44.
Really?
Yeah.
Speedy
So-
Gonzalez is today.
Yeah, we're very quick. So here's the thing.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Let's talk about this.
Oh,
okay?
God.
All right, gather close.
Yeah.
Gather
Okay.
close to
All right.
your electronic device
Yeah.
here that you're listening. Okay. Doc Brown
Mm-hmm.
tells Marty when they're back in the 50s that he might run into himself in the 50s. Don't mess that up. And he tells him very straightforward. He said, do not contact yourself because that could create,
Right. Yeah.
you
yeah.
know, a vortex.
Unforeseen circumstances,
blah,
or
blah,
whatever he says. Yeah.
Could be disastrous, end
Yeah.
time as we know it. Then, almost immediately, he runs into himself
And gives him a wrench.
and gives him a wrench.
He corrects himself. He's like, I need a 5/8.
Yes.
He's like, don't you mean a 7/16 or
yeah,
something or
like
whatever?
a 3/4.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Oh, you're right.
and Doc Brown looks at the, by the way, Doc Brown looks at the bolt that he's,
Yeah.
how do you look at a bolt and know?
Yeah, that's yeah. I was like, how does he look at it? And he's like, oh, you're right.
Yeah, you're
What?
right. Wait, how many times have you looked at a bolt?
Yeah.
I go through like 15 wrenches until I find
Yeah.
the right one. So he spends.
I can eyeball a 10, a 12, and a 14, but that's it.
It's better than me. I can't
Yeah.
do that. So he spends a long time where both Doc Browns are facing towards the camera.
Mm-hmm.
The one Doc Brown doesn't notice, like the 50s Doc Brown doesn't notice, the 80s Doc Brown.
Mm-hmm.
How is that even possible?
I don't know.
So that was like way
Yeah.
over the line of, okay, that's completely improbable and
Right.
it's impossible. So that was kind of annoying to me how much. And then he was like, it was almost like he was egging himself on, hoping that the other Doc Brown would see him or something. It was like, why would you hand him a wrench? Why wouldn't you just like run away or something?
It was a very odd scene for
Very
sure.
odd.
That was one of the things where I was like, you're kind of breaking your own rules here, guy.
Yeah. So Doc Brown is a liar.
Yeah.
Not a liar, but he's just a hypocrite.
He's a hypocrite.
He's
yeah.
a hypocrite. So anyway, that's what we know about Doc Brown. He's a hypocrite. I think it's. I still want to say Skinner. It's not Skinner. It's and it's not Tanner, is it? It's not.
No,
The
I know the principal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about.
So he looks at when Biff,
Mm-hmm.
I guess you'd call, I don't know, not the new Biff, when Biff gets the sports almanac,
Mm-hmm.
which, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
if that book had every sports outcome from 1955 or whatever until the year 2000,
Yeah.
it would be enormous.
Oh
It
yeah.
would not have been a flimsy little magazine. That
He
would
was
have
like
been,
betting on like horses.
yes.
It was.
Yeah.
It was everything.
It was everything because he actually looks up during a climactic scene. He looks up, he hears the radio.
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
this
it's
was
going
the thing
through
about yeah.
and it's going through sports scores, and he looks it up in the book, and it
While
instantly
driving.
while driving, he instantly finds it. By
Yeah.
the way, and goes, "Oh, I'll be damned!" You know,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's right. How? Okay, number one, how did he find it? Number two, seriously, every single sports game ever.
Yeah.
Come on.
Also, when older Biff is showing younger Biff that it's right, that it's real,
yeah.
and they're sitting in the car, and
Yes.
like they just happen to turn on the radio at the
Right.
exact moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a suspenseful game where it's a close score, and it sounds like, and the announcer says, "Well, this is all wrapped
Yeah.
up," and blah blah blah. Okay,
Yeah.
I get that. Obviously, it's a movie, blah blah blah,
Right.
fantasy, all that. So to me, though, when he has that book, and then he has, remember, he has that Ooh La La magazine that he puts
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
He puts that in before the principal grabs it from him, and the principal says to him, "What is this, a sports magazine?" and starts flipping through it.
Yeah.
He would have known immediately
Oh yeah.
what
that's
was
true.
in there. So he takes the magazine from him because he says, "Oh, you doing homework?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "I'm not doing homework because
Yeah.
I'm not at home." Biff says that, okay?
Yeah.
So the principal, whatever the guy's name is, leaves and takes that back to his office. Now, that is one of the most unneeded, long, agonizing scenes where Marty is trying to retrieve the sports almanac from the principal's office. Really horrible. Plus, he too is a hypocrite because he's putting alcohol in his coffee cup.
Oh, yeah.
He actually does put alcohol in his coffee cup and sits there and sips
Also,
that.
something about that scene that I'm just now remembering.
Yeah.
I think I remember, I believe Netflix actually edited that scene.
Did they?
Where I remember something. Let me see if I can actually pull it up.
They put in subliminal Netflix ads?
No. It was like what was the name of the magazine?
Ooh La La.
Let me see if I can pull it up. Apparently they like took out the name of the magazine or something.
Oh.
Because it like wasn't kid friendly or something.
Oh.
Ooh
Interesting.
La.
So,
I'm just typing this madly into YouTube right now.
So I just found that to be very I'll fill in time here. I found that to be very interesting because he of course would have seen that as he was flipping through the magazine, and then he would have put him into detention, or he would have done whatever.
So Netflix took it out because I would assume because there's a video that says Netflix restores original version of Back to the Future Part 2 with Ooh La La.
With Ooh La La? Okay.
Yeah. So
very interesting though, and I don't know, maybe on our DVD it has something different.
Yeah,
we
could check.
But the idea though, I thought that was like, okay, well he would have seen that. The other thing that was really annoying to me was that when Biff gets knocked out, okay, George McFly has just punched him in this movie. He gets knocked out. Marty McFly runs up, the new one, runs up to him and says, "Hey, everybody, clear out. Nothing to see here." And he grabs the magazine, right? Grabs the sports almanac. There's a stupid... I'm sure this person's a nice person, but the character
he
is
stole his wallet.
Yes,
guy? Yeah.
Yes.
He took his wallet.
He goes, "I think he took his wallet." He says that 4 times. And there's something about that just grated on me 4 times. Like, shut up. Shut your face.
I genuinely laughed at that part. I was like, that's kind of funny.
It was funny, but it was annoying to me. Like, when I watched it this time, I was like, "Got it, shut up, you little, you just."
Yeah.
Just very annoying. So that's basically the end of my notes on that stuff.
Okay.
I mean, we can talk more about other things.
What? I got my trivia if you want.
Yeah, trivia. Let's shoot. Let's go.
So this is what? Where are you laughing?
I'm checking. I'm just checking because we were like speeding through things today. It's like
I think we're getting our rhythm down. We're not like
right.
We're not going off track as much as we normally do.
We go off track.
Jeez, I mean, some of them have been real bad. What episode where I was standing up talking about retrofuturism, and then the mics cut out?
You were talking about
I mean, it was like Beautiful Mind style.
Yeah.
It was like I had the board up and I was smoking 2 cigarettes with both hands, and
Yep,
so
that happened.
You know what? We've been less ADD recently. We've been actually kind of staying on track.
Yeah, maybe.
So this is brought to you by, but in no way sponsored by, IMDb.
Yeah.
And the first one is first film appearance for Elijah Wood. He plays one of the 2 video game boys to whom Marty speaks with in the diner near the start of the film.
Yeah.
I just thought that was interesting that Elijah Wood went on to be this huge star, Lord of the Rings.
I was gonna say he didn't do anything after that. He just
it was just super cool.
His whole tanked. His whole career tanked after this movie.
Well, and then he was in the most terrifying movie in the world, Sin City.
Yeah, that was weird. That was
scene
him.
where he gets killed.
That was weird.
His
that
limbs
was
are
him.
cut off.
Yeah,
terrifying.
Yeah, that's a really.
I hate Sin City. I hate Sin City with a passion.
Do you really?
I do.
I found it fascinating. Like, this is terrible, but almost like a car accident you pass by and you're like, well, you got to kind of look, but you can't. Don't look, but you got to look. That was the kind of thing. It made me feel uncomfortable big time.
Yeah.
The entire movie made me feel uncomfortable.
There's actually a little bit of trivia with Sin City, though, is that did you know that we actually have the technology to make color films? Did you know this? Because apparently the people of Sin City did not know that we can make color films because they made it black and white, and it was film noir, and it sucked. It's not artsy. It's annoying. It's not artsy. It's annoying.
So how do you really feel?
I'm fine. It's whatever. It's whatever.
I don't sugarcoat your feelings. Wow, boy,
I really hate Sin City. Here's the
Wow.
reason why is because
Okay,
I kept getting recommended clips on YouTube,
Okay.
and I'm editing videos 2, 3, 4 in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I keep seeing these images. The thumbnails are terrifying. It was Elijah Wood
Yeah.
with no limbs,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he was just smirking and staring
Yes.
directly into camera.
Yeah.
And I could see it
weird.
clear as day in my mind right now,
Yeah.
and it's horrifying.
Yeah. It was black and white, so it doesn't matter. It's not real.
It's not real. Whatever. So this is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I kind of actually want to save this one for last.
Okay.
I'm gonna save this one for last.
All right.
Carl Sagan considered this the greatest time travel movie ever. He praised the accuracy in handling multiple timelines, as that would really happen if time travel were possible. In Back to the Future, the game, Carl Sagan is an alias used by Doc Brown when visiting Hill Valley in 1931.
Really?
Yeah, so they made a video game. But Carl Sagan, huge scientist.
Oh, yeah. Carl Sagan was big.
Yeah,
he would
he
talk
praised
about
it.
space stuff and things and yes, space stuff.
There's a big at my college. There's a big quote from him on one of our walls. It was in size like 3,000 font. I was like, all right.
Wow. Okay. But yeah, obviously huge.
Oh yeah. So that's high praise, is what we're saying.
It is
very high praise.
Yeah.
The biggest effect of the picture is a camera trick called Vistaglide. Are you aware of this?
No.
Okay. So there are 4 scenes that use the effect of the same actor interacting with themselves. The 4 scenes were shot were Griff and 2015 Biff. Okay, basically it just lists the scenes, whatever.
Okay.
In order to create the diner sequence with the Vistaglide, the camera had to be divided into thirds, and Michael had to come in 3 different times to play his older self, Marty Jr., and his daughter, Marlene. Did you notice that his daughter was played by Michael J. Fox?
Yeah.
I did not notice that until I watched the Amazon 4K version, and I was like, oh, wow.
Well, you mentioned that the 4K version is freaky because it's so sharp and so clear.
Yeah, it's very sharp.
Yeah.
This is the first film to accomplish interaction between the same actor on the screen twice as 2 different characters. If you watch closely, you'll see that 2015 Biff's hand disappears during the scene in the garage.
It does?
Yeah, so like it's basically a split screen.
Yeah.
But he moves his hand and it cuts off.
But isn't there so in that is that like a tracking system, like a camera
that's all it
tracking
says.
system?
I would assume I would assume some type
was,
of rig, because that was the interesting thing, is that there was some camera movements while both were on screen, and I'm like, that would be a nightmare.
Yeah,
even by today's standards. You would have to, less so, but you'd have to make a tracking mask for everything, and
well,
it's
if
just a nightmare.
it's not as bad nowadays. If you have the same, because of motion, because of the rigs for cameras now, you can do exactly the same shot with motion over and over again. It's gotten much better, and because of technology from video editing, electronic editing, you can overlay things dozens of times. So, it's a lot easier. But back then, standard films, cameras and things like that would be really difficult to do. Yeah. And they did it well. I think they did it very well.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even really blink an eye or think of it too much, which is good. That's what you want.
Right.
I thought this was funny. In front of the entrance to the Biff Tannen Museum, there's a sign that reads "Smoking Required." Which
really?
I thought I just love little touches like that filmmakers put in.
I did not
it's this
see
dystopia,
that.
you know.
Yes, I did not see
Biff
that.
is a big jerk and stuff.
Yeah.
So the smoke, instead of what's typically the no smoking areas, it says "Smoking Required," which I thought was pretty funny.
That's pretty funny. That is. Pretty funny.
This was interesting, and I thought something that you would really appreciate.
Okay.
And it said Marty was given an anger problem in this film to make him more of a human character, because they said whatever trivia fact this was said that Marty in the first movie was kind of a perfect character. He didn't really have any flaws. He didn't ever have any Achilles heels, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
So he was given the chicken thing, which I thought was kind of stupid.
Yeah.
But it was a recurring theme, and it's a recurring theme in the third movie as well.
It is. It is. That's interesting that they did that, because I thought that his his flaw in the beginning of the first movie was the fact that he didn't believe in himself.
Right.
And that's what I thought was going to be his. But I guess you can't really. I mean, he grew in that first movie to have more confidence in himself, and then passed the confidence onto his dad, which was weird.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a weird thing. Like, okay, so if he passed the confidence onto his dad, did then he have the confidence because he passed it on to his dad? Kind of the Terminator.
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
like,
It's the
technology.
the chicken and the egg. Yeah.
Yeah, the technology didn't exist until the Terminator came back to give them the technology.
Yeah, it's
So,
weird. It's a weird
it's
time
a
loop issue.
Very, very odd thing. So.
But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
It took 11 months for this movie and Back to the Future Part 3 to be filmed back to back. So audiences in theaters in 1989 saw a trailer for Back to the Future Part 3 at the end of Part 2, which is something that I feel like doesn't really happen anymore.
Well, no, and I think, they knew that they were going to have to
Right.
make this into 2 movies, I guess, or whatever. Whoever decided they were going to make it into 2 movies, which is great because there was too much story to tell. And they had they have a good premise, plus the fact that they knew that the first movie was such a success that 2 additional movies shot back to back would make bank. Big time.
And they did. And they did.
And they made tons and tons of money on it.
Yeah, they did cash out.
Yeah.
So 2 more here, which we already knew. All the future cars in the film were recycled from other movies set in the future.
Yeah, which is hilarious.
Which I don't know if that's fully accurate because I think the BMW was built for this movie.
It may have been.
But a lot of the background cars, the Probe, you said the Super Van, all that stuff was from other stuff.
The Super Van is hilarious to me because it was in so many other movies.
I mean, it has a rap sheet. It has it's a third on the call list.
Yep.
Last one I thought was really interesting and kind of messed with my head a little bit.
Okay.
Marty McFly Jr. in the movie. So Marty McFly's son was born in 1998 in the film.
Oh.
Which is a year after I was born. So he's technically younger than me.
Oh. Okay.
It's just weird to think about that, like, that like weird. I pretty much would perfectly fit into the age range of this movie.
Yeah. Exactly.
His kids were exactly my age.
Yeah. Well, and it was it was.
Well, wait. Then in the 80s, was Marty McFly around your age? How old were you in 85?
85, I was
46.
Stop. You
I know. I'm a terrible son. No, in 85 you're what?
No, in 85 I was 19 years old.
Yeah, so you're right around
19. He was
in high school, I guess.
He was in high school, and I don't think he was. I think he was younger, like several years younger.
Yeah, but he had a driver's license. He could drive, and
he got around on a skateboard. I don't know if he. Well, no, you.
No, because in the second movie, he's like, we were going to take the new pickup truck out.
Yeah, I'm sorry, totally.
Yeah, so he had to have been like 18, 19.
So maybe.
Also, he's hanging out with an elderly man. If he was under 18, that is another red flag for this film.
That is a bizarre thing.
Also, Christopher Lloyd has been 60 years old for about 60 years.
Yeah,
it's
amazing.
It's strange.
He stayed the same, which was great that they made him like. They made his character old in the first movie, and it's funny because he then looks back at himself. He didn't change anything.
Yeah.
And then did you notice? You had mentioned at the start of this movie that. The start of the second movie, in the 4K, it looked like his face looked terrible.
Yeah.
Right? Then, did you notice, though, he takes the mask off?
Yes, it looks a lot better, yeah.
And it looks a lot better.
Yeah.
So it does. So it was this kind of funny thing that they did, and he looks exactly the same, but without the mask on.
So this is the last trivia quote, and this is the one I saved for last. I skipped over.
Yeah.
So Crispin Glover, who played the dad in the first film, sued the filmmakers as he had not granted permission to use his likeness in the second film.
Yes.
Crispin's suit named John Doe 1-100 as defendants, where he did not have to name all of the individuals he was suing. Crispin ended up dropping the lawsuit after the case was settled out of court for $765,000 by Universal's insurance company, who decided that it would be cheaper to pay Crispin rather than go to trial. The Screen Actors Guild subsequently introduced new rules about illicit use of actors. So
Interesting.
the reason why this is so sketchy
yeah.
is because do you know what they did for the second movie?
No, you had mentioned something
Yeah.
about it, but you were going to tell me till now.
So
this is a big reveal.
This is big reveal for you.
Yeah.
So what they did is for the first movie.
No. Oh, sorry. Go
For
ahead.
the first movie,
Yeah.
something that typically happens is you have like it's not a death mask that's taken of the actors, but like you know what I'm talking. They do a cast of your head.
Yeah, they do a life casting.
Life casting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life
So in order to do props, in order to do masks, if you need makeup.
Fact, interesting fact, you can buy the life mask of Sean Connery.
Really?
Yeah, you can.
Interesting.
So anyway. Okay.
So they had life casts of
Yeah.
all of the actors from the first movie.
Interesting.
When Crispin Glover didn't want to do the second movie,
Uh-huh.
they made a mask based off of his life mask. So they literally
Wow.
molded it from his face
Yeah.
and made a mask and put it on a different actor.
Wow.
I mean, it's
Wow.
like deep faking 1980s style.
That's
I mean, really,
right.
truly, they made a
That's cool.
latex mask
Yeah.
of Crispin Glover without his consent and just
Yeah.
put it on an actor. And then, of course, you see in the movie he's like upside down because of a back injury or
Right.
whatever. So it's hard to tell.
So it's hard to tell.
But
yeah.
that's the sketchy part. And that's the part where I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, Crispin Glover seems like an interesting character.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, a company doing that and not even consulting you,
Yeah.
not even saying, hey, we'll pay you, a smaller sum if we can use your life.
Yeah.
Nothing. They just went behind his back and just did that.
Yes, and now with deep fakes that you just touched on, I would be interested in seeing the contract that actors have to do now because there's always been the clause of using the person's likeness in perpetuity. So forever and ever they could use the person's likeness to a certain degree. Their contracts are very, very tricky and can be very, very tricky on purpose. That's why you have lawyers. That's why you have all that stuff. So I would be interested to see nowadays because deep fakes, literally, they are taking. Just watched something about this. They're taking everything and actually they did it with Terminator 2 when they re-released Terminator 2. They took Schwarzenegger's face and put it onto the stunt double who drives a motorcycle over a bridge, and then the semi-truck comes over. Well, you can definitely see that's not Schwarzenegger when in the first original movie. But then what they did is a deep fake of Schwarzenegger after it, and
it's
it
nuts.
looks really real, like it looks like it's him. So nowadays, that would be interesting to see what that kind of,
Yeah, which I thought was interesting, the last line of this trivia fact, which was the Screen Actors Guild subsequently introduced new rules about it.
Yeah.
So that could have preset rules that have now been affected by deepfakes.
Yes, and I would have to look this up and stuff. But how does Hollywood deal with deepfakes? Because the other thing is, think about the fact that now you can literally take any person and deepfake. You can do it on your phone. There's apps for that.
I mean, even us, this is what, our 13th episode? So let's just say there's over 13 hours of us talking now. You could probably string us together to say anything. Anything.
I'm sure. Yes.
So the rest of this podcast, we're just going to say words and with blank audio.
That's
and
right.
you can kind of
And
do
you can
your
cut it
own,
together. You could cut your own.
Yeah.
It's a do-it-yourself.
We'll start off with 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
We'll do it at the same time.
That won't be annoying.
We'll say like,
but yeah. So
cat, barn.
You guys at home can string together your own sentences.
And you know what's one? And so and the one that we would probably use the most often.
What?
Craig Lieberman.
Shout out
to
Craig
Craig
Lieberman.
Lieberman.
We almost forgot about it. I genuinely forgot about it.
I did not
Shout
forget
out Craig
about
Lieberman.
Craig Lieberman. Yeah. Shout out.
Would you change the channel as we're getting towards the end here?
You know what? That's a really good point. Would I change the channel? No. I would not change the channel because I really enjoy the film. I really do. I actually might even sit down and watch this. Except
Yeah.
if it was during the part where Marty goes into the principal's office and there's something about
Yeah,
that. It goes,
that really irked
it's
you.
too tedious. It goes
Yeah.
on and on. No.
Yeah.
No. Cut it out. Stop. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
I've
No,
said that.
I agree
That's
with
the
you.
only. That's the only time. But I would maybe even sit down. But I would not turn the channel.
I wouldn't turn the channel. I don't think I would sit down though.
Really?
I think I'd turn it on the background.
That surprises me.
Well, just
you
because
really like this one.
I feel like I've seen it so much now, and like even going back and watching it today, I hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it in years, really.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
I kind of got the gist of it. I kind of got the beats of
Yeah.
it. You know.
Yeah,
I kind of. So I think just because I've seen it so much, I think that would change like 5 years down the road when I hadn't seen it so recently.
Yeah.
I would sit down and watch it again, but I think
Yeah, I think now I would watch it again to see if I could catch Crispin Glover's face.
Oh yeah,
know,
the face
George
mask.
McFly face mask thing. But,
Yeah.
that would be interesting. Yeah, it's like like you said though. I mean, once you get it, you kind of get it.
Yeah.
Okay, seen it.
But great movie, great car movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the DeLorean is almost as iconic as it comes.
Yeah. I mean, that is one of the classic car movie
Yeah.
cars. I mean, it's just really unbelievable. You see it, you know what it is instantly. Everyone knows what it is.
Mhm.
Even a regular DeLorean DMC 12, people are going to always associate that with the time machine.
Mhm.
Just they're linked forever.
Yeah.
Because of this. So yeah.
That's all my thoughts.
Okay, so
Yeah.
next time
Yes.
you have the choice. It's your choice
So,
of what the movie's going to be for next time.
are you ready?
No, I am not
It's a
ready.
film that I have not seen, and I don't believe you've seen either.
No.
So it's going to be a completely
All right.
fresh movie,
And
and it is called
okay.
Rush.
Rush. I have not seen it.
So it's a 2013 film.
okay.
And the description on IMDb is
Yeah.
the merciless 1970s rivalry between Formula One rivals James Hunt and Niki Lauda. So it's a Formula One movie. It's a racing movie.
What is it about? Is that a documentary or is it
No,
like a
no.
okay,
So it's starring Daniel Bruhl, who's like
Okay.
every German bad guy you've ever seen in every movie.
okay. All right.
Chris Hemsworth
No.
and
okay,
Olivia
yeah.
Wilde.
Wow.
And
Okay,
is
No idea.
written
who
by
she is.
Peter Morgan, directed by Ron Howard.
No.
Ron Howard directed a Formula One movie.
Really?
It's called Rush.
Okay.
And it's about 1970s Formula One racing.
Okay.
And specifically a rivalry. So it
All right.
just started streaming on Netflix, I believe,
Okay.
today.
All right.
So when
That's
this
fun. I've
yeah,
never
when
seen
this
it,
episode
so-
comes out, I don't know if it'll still be streaming. I'm sorry,
All
we
right.
filmed these in advance.
Yeah.
But
It's true.
yeah, I just thought one would be it's a racing movie. I feel like we haven't done a racing movie in a while besides
Yeah.
like Cars, really.
Yeah.
It's F1, which neither of us are really too up on.
No. No, not
but-
really. Yeah.
That's it. Rush, 2013. Ron Howard.
Yeah.
Shout out Ron Howard.
Shut
You know
It's a-
what?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen a Ron Howard movie.
No, you've seen her Ron Howard.
What? What has he done?
Um.
Interesting. I literally only know him from Arrested Development.
Yes. Well, that and he did. I was gonna call it Pod People. It's not. It's
Pod People.
No. What is that movie?
Avatar?
Cocoon.
Cocoon? Never seen Cocoon.
Super popular movie.
I don't even know what that is. Never seen Cocoon.
He also did. What are some other movies he's done? Apollo 13 or whatever.
Never seen it.
Yeah, never. I didn't see it either.
Yeah. What was it? Tom Hanks Goes to Space? Lame.
Um,
Next.
Tom Hanks in
Yeah.
space.
Yeah, there's a
That's
snake
really-
in my boot. Wilson! Whatever, you know.
I'm sure that.
Yeah. Shout out to Tom Hanks' son that's slowly losing his mind on social media.
What?
Yeah, if you want to do some Googling, do some
All right.
Googling.
Okay.
Or binging or
All right.
DuckDuckGo.
Yes.
So thank
Okay,
you guys
yep.
so much for listening to
Okay.
Back to the Future Part 2. Next will be Rush 2013. Yeah.
All right. Have a good one. We'll see you later. Goodbye.